All right, welcome into Before Floor, an extension of 5 on the Floor here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure that you like and subscribe. That way you get all of the latest content. We had, I think, 7 new Heat things on the YouTube channel today. You're going to miss some if you don't subscribe, okay? It's real simple. It's free, and you'll get a notification when stuff goes live. All right, tonight, before I get to our sponsors, we got Alejandro Villegas, our producer. He's at the game with Alex Toledo, so make sure you're following their accounts tonight. Brady, me, and Greg are all sort of parked in our homes. Also here, we've got Jonathan Ramlakan and we've got Ricky J. Mark. We are sponsored by the Biscayne Bay Brewing Company, the official beer of the 5 Reasons Sports Network and the Miami Marlins. There's the Marlins Lager. You can get the Tropical Bay IPA. If you're going to the arena tonight, 100 level, 300 level, tell them 5 Reasons sent you. Again, this is our official beer. Support local. Biscayne Bay Brewing can be found also at many local restaurants, including one of our other sponsors, Quarterdeck. We're having a watch party at Quarterdeck Davie. The Celtics game on January 31st. We'll be telling you more about that one, but also local Winn-Dixie, Whole Foods, and Publix. We're also sponsored by our friend Mark Brown. Ran into him at the game the other night, markbrownpa.com. He's the man with a plan. You need an estate plan. Mark is the guy to go to, but also he can help you with your real estate title needs. You got a closing. He is the person to go to. I say this all the time, but I was dealing with a situation, completely incompetent people on the other side, and Mark calmly and quickly handled it. 954-566-5678. It's 954-566-5678. Remember, whatever real estate agents tell you, you can choose who does your closing, okay? So mention Mark. Say Mark Brown PA is who we're recommending because we use him, and he's terrific, okay? All right, let's get to it tonight. Heat Blazers. We'll just start here. Brady, who's in, who's out?
Yeah, Kyle Lowry is still out due to personal reasons. And the other one that popped up today was the protocols with Tyler Hero entering the protocols. So that's going to be interesting because there's a couple of jumbled up games here, and I don't know if he'll be back by that Sunday Lakers game because it feels like that'll hit the 5-day mark if that's the range it'll be in. So that's something to keep track of. And I think Gabe Vincent should stay in the starting lineup. Everything should probably stay the same, but I think the biggest change is probably they locked up Kyle Guy at a decent time because it seems like he's the 9th guy in the rotation for sure. Caleb Martin, Strus, and Dedmon will probably be off the bench. They'll probably add Guy, and I'm kind of interested to see what he can bring. Like, it feels like he's had every time he's had moments to play, he's kind of shown out a little bit. And now without Tyler, it was a lot of playing next to Tyler. Now he can actually kind of see what he can do on the ball with a little bit more reps.
Yeah, I noticed Mario Chalmers posted on Instagram himself in a Heat jersey today. I wonder, a little regret that he's not still around. He might have gotten some reps tonight. Also, if you do the countdown here, 5 days, like you said, I mean, Hero, we know that he's been boosted, right? Because they boosted everybody in the organization. They made us boost before we could go back into the media room. And but additionally, he's already had COVID twice, I think, at this stage. So we hope it's nothing serious. But I don't think he'll be back for Sunday if you just base this on the timing. And he was doing that late night workout with Jimmy last night. Who's one of the guys who has stayed out of the protocols this year but has had COVID previously. Hopeful that that doesn't pop up on a test here in the next 24 hours. Greg, without, again, no Lowry, so Vincent starts. We assume that, and looks like the front court rotation probably stays the same against this team. Portland does not defend. So I feel like if there's a night that maybe Kyle Guy can get his feet wet here, it's this one.
Yeah, and a lot more than Kyle Guy. I think Max Strus has a chance to get back on track. We want Duncan to do better things. Well, here's an opportunity. And I think that Gabe could get 40 minutes tonight if Spo's not careful. He's going to trust him like that, just with some of the guards that that Portland does have that can score. So that'll be interesting to watch. This is why, this is a perfect example of Hero being out of nowhere, and Kyle Lowry's out for personal reasons. Hopefully they just gave him a week off. He deserves a week off. Give him another week off if it's up to
Well, he had to sit through that Eagle game. I mean,
yeah, but truthfully, if they gave him 2 weeks off and they don't want to say that and it's personal reasons for that, more power to him. He deserves it off. But this is the exact reason why a consolidation trade may not be the smartest thing to look at as you approach the deadline. And I know that we want the dopamine rush of the Woj bomb that tells us that we're getting a new shiny toy. But I think that this is why you keep all of these options throughout the rest of the season, because these things are going to just pop up.
Oh my God. You're getting real close to the quote that I had last year that got me hammered everywhere. Don't trade the depth in a COVID season. Jonathan, we talk about Hero and what he's meant this year. this is pretty remarkable. Their big four of Lowry, if we're to include Hero in the big four, and they do, I can say internally they do. Okay, so if we're to say their big four is Lowry, Bam, Jimmy, and Tyler, 11 games together this season, and it's not going to happen tonight, and it's not going to happen Friday in Atlanta, and it's not going to happen most likely on Sunday either. Are you concerned at all about that? I mean, how many games is necessary for the four of them to play together? Oh,
I'd say 15 to 20.
There we go. Yep. I would say just a little concerned, but honestly, we have to give credit to Coach Spoelstra, right? Because even with only 11 games, I believe we're tied for first place right now, just percentage points behind. So give all credit in the world to Eric Spoelstra.
not according to ESPN, Jonathan. Not according to ESPN.
We're not tied.
Right.
No, we're not even
invisible.
They're not even in the league.
Them,
they're not even in the league. The Nets are chasing the Bulls. That's it.
It's Nets, invisible spot, and then Chicago, according to ESPN. So we'll give the Heat all the love here. So definitely got to give credit to Eric Spoelstra. But I think things are going to work out just fine, right? I feel like this is a really smart group to play together, right? There's a really natural chemistry between Jimmy and Kyle Lowry. And then obviously Kyle and Hero has been starting to develop really well together too. I just think it'll work out okay. I think Coach knows how to put things together. I think these times now are going to develop those micro lineups we'll see in the playoffs. When, you have one player go to the bench, you have two players go to the bench. We'll see these lineups being used today as kind of micro lineups in the playoffs moving forward. But, a little worried of not having those guys together, but I think Coach Spo will figure it out.
Ricky, I thought what Greg said was interesting. This idea of kind of needing the dopamine, the Woj bomb, that this is what fans live for, particularly in the space that we're all in, right? Like I don't feel like 80% to 90% of Heat fans are that way, but the ones who are on Twitter are, right? Like and we kind of look at Twitter as like the Heat populace, and I can tell you that when I run into people at games and I'll ask them, they'll see me and they'll be like, "Oh, are you still on the radio?" Like, because literally, like, they're not on Twitter, okay? Like, they'll come up to me to say hello or whatever, but they don't. And I'm like, "What's your Twitter handle? I'll follow you." "Oh, I'm not on Twitter." And I'm always like stunned by that, because literally we conduct all of our business on Twitter, even internally at the network. Everything we do is on Twitter. Do you think that that again, what Greg is talking about here, like this need for a consolidation trade, is this more of kind of us, because we're talking this stuff every day with people, than it is really a reality that's necessary for this particular group?
So I'm going to be completely honest, as I've tried to be since we've started doing these pregame shows. I think the Heat are probably a move away from being a legit, championship contender, no underdog, no underdog theme. I think there may be a move away from doing that, or a mid-season health report from someone that was acquired at some point last March. But
right,
it's funny how Twitter gives a certain kind of people a platform, and how it tends to unfortunately represent the base. I've been outspoken about how annoying it can be sometimes.
Especially those Knicks fans.
Yeah, we're not talking about the Knicks. This is a Miami Heat pregame show, but nice try, Jonathan. The thing is, where we're at right now, it's interesting because ultimately this Heat team is good enough to compete with just about anyone. A trade is, in my opinion, needed, but it's not going to be the difference between a championship or bust if this Heat team does what they're supposed to do, and everyone stays healthy. So I'm not as worried. I'm thankful that Heat Twitter doesn't represent the entire Heat base, because like you, Ethan, I've had conversations with Heat fans off of Twitter, and they've seemed a lot less homery, a lot more nuanced, and a lot more focused on the reality of the fact that, hey, not all of us were born after 2004.
Well, I'll say this: Twitter's better than Facebook in all regards.
Oh God, who even uses Facebook?
Well,
anymore?
I'm going to say, check out the Heat Facebook at times, and you will see some crazy stuff. They want them to re-sign Zoe. Let me get to this comment. We always appreciate the super chats that come in here. This one from Corbs. Considering that Oladipo was healthy and trade talk is healthy, would you trade Duncan, Morris, Akpala for Harrison Barnes for a final push? I think we need to make that trade. You know what's funny is that's the guy Alex Toledo wants. Like we've talked about that. We were talking about that during the game, The Kings are obviously one of the more active teams right now because the Kings are just always circling. They get good young players, maybe not as good as they should get with their draft position, and then 2-3 years later, those players are looking to leave or the mix doesn't work and they're looking to flip it again, and that's how you miss the playoffs for 20 straight years. It seems like they're doing that again with this pursuit of Simmons. If Harrison Barnes is available, he's a perfect fit for this Heat team. I don't think you're going to be able to get him with Duncan Robinson as the key piece of the trade. I feel like you're looking at for Duncan, and we'll probably do an episode about this eventually, but Jeremy Grant is more kind of a guy that we've discussed a little bit, so maybe a Marcus Morris. I feel like if the Clippers decide that they're pulling back here. Let's get not on Twitter. No wonder all our All-Star votes are so trash. Well, I feel like that's the whole league here. All right, let's get to tonight. Portland. CJ McCollum is back. This is the one key difference from the last game. Anthony Simons had a big quarter against the Heat last time, and he's had some big moments this year. But again, I'll go to you, Brady. They don't defend. I mean, they don't. I mean, Billups hasn't been able to get that through to them at all. I'm a little concerned with the Heat tonight that their attitude will be just like, whereas they were getting in the paint consistently against a Toronto team that it has a lot of length. You didn't think maybe they'd be able to do that. I'm a little bit afraid for the Heat's sake that their idea against Portland is just bomb away from three, and I think that could be a pitfall tonight.
Yeah, I can 100% see that just because the rotations a lot of the time are just not great, that when Miami gets that type of space on the perimeter, they're just firing away. But you mentioned Portland not being able to defend. I think the bigger thing is Miami being able to defend. If you look at, I think the biggest thing is Caleb Martin. I know I bring this up many times, but it's crazy how this recent stretch that he's on, I looked it up, that he's holding offensive players to 29% from the field in the month of January. And over that stretch, he's guarded guys, Fox, Curry, Trae Young, Chris Paul, Fred VanVleet. Every one of those guys, he's basically slowed down, and he's been the primary defender on them. Like, this is not like a fluke thing. Like, this is something that can last. And when you have a certain team that comes in, like a CJ McCollum, you're not afraid to throw at Caleb Martin. I know he's a 2 and he's been guarding mostly 1s, but obviously he can, he's a lengthy guy already. He plays some 4 and 5 for Miami that he can guard a 2. I think you see that. I think you see him guard Anthony Simons as well, but obviously we're talking about another defender on Miami and Gabe Vincent. I think he probably sees most of the reps on Anthony Simons. It just feels like that's the bigger thing, where if you can hold, I think it was the Atlanta game where the halftime, it was like 70-64. And then the Philly game, even though they lost, it was like 50-43. Like, that's their game. If they can stay in the 40s to 50s range at halftime, like, they're in a decent spot, because that's the bigger thing to me. They can get offense going down the stretch. I feel like Jimmy or Bam can get them out of things. But the bigger thing is when you're without Kyle Lowry and Tyler, have been most of their bigger offensive punches, that you just have to make sure it's one of those in the mud, gritty defensive games.
Greg, write this one down. We need to do an episode about how they're going to retain Caleb Martin long term, because I think this is this is a conversation that Heat fans are starting to have, and we always get here. It's like they develop a guy, and then it's like, okay, what are the mechanics of keeping him for the short term, and then what are you paying him for the long term, and can you just replace him with somebody else? And I feel like we're going to be having all those conversations.
There
very,
are
very
obstacles,
soon.
But there are none.
Well, let's have no obstacle to that particular episode, because I feel like we need to do that. Here's the thing, Greg. You look at this week, and I mentioned this, that this was a stretch against arguably the 3 most disappointing teams in the NBA. Portland has a legitimate excuse now because Lillard's out, but they were not playing particularly well before that. Atlanta has been a mess all season, and then the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers are currently a dumpster fire that figure they're going to be able to put it out by the playoffs. I don't know. That's their next 3 games. I feel like at least the names are big enough on the other side that the Heat won't take these teams lightly. It's not a Sacramento. It's not that kind of thing. Do you think they'll focus? Because I feel like if they focus, they can sweep these next 3.
Well, the Lakers game, they definitely will, because even though the Lakers record is down, like if 6 is on the court, then that game will be taken seriously. Atlanta, that's a weird one, because they just saw them twice and now they're seeing them again. It's tough to beat up on a team, multiple times in a row like that. So we'll see how that goes tonight. I think that they can get this one. Nurkic had 20 and 20 up in Orlando. So they got to watch out for him there. I'm interested to see how they handle that, if it's going to be primarily just Dedmon again. And then also Jimmy. Like I think that we saw him obviously play really well in against Toronto, but I'm looking for a scoring outburst. It's about time we get a Jimmy scoring outburst with no Tyler to come off the bench and give them that injection of offense. I feel like that Jimmy needs to definitely be way more involved. He's at 21.5 points. I think tonight he's going to have to go over for the Heat to get a win. They're going to need a high usage Jimmy game.
They raised that number then if you're talking about Prize Picks because it was 19 and a half previously.
So you got in well.
So
it's 21 and a half.
It went up to 21 and a half. And again, the code is 5. They put something new in there in Prize Picks where it's not fantasy score, but you can combine rebounds, points, and assists all together. Jonathan, tonight, the key.
I think the key is just going to be moving the ball, right? One of the worst parts about Portland is their help defense. Like Brady alluded to, one of the worst defenses that they give up 38% on the opponent's 3-point percentage. So I think it is going to be important. I know we talked about spraying away could be the downfall of this team, but I really do think driving and kicking, forcing Portland to help over and getting that extra defending over. And with the extra shooter we have with Kyle Guy now, I think this could be something, like you said, that'll open up some of these other guys to get going. So I'm going to take the Heat. I think, but like I said, moving the ball is going to be key because one-on-one, they do a good job of helping, but helping the helper, they don't do a good job. So I think once we get that ball sprayed out, we should be good to go.
Yeah, I think Miami needs to play a quintessentially Miami Heat game tonight. I don't think, in particular, any one player needs to increase their usage rate any higher than necessary. I mean, as many people in the comments have said, this Heat team has enough to go in there and beat a mediocre to bad Blazers team. At this point, go in there, play a team game the way Spo loves watching his guys play. If they do that, this game should be over by the late third quarter, early fourth quarter. You see the end of the bench come in late in the fourth quarter and just go home, rest. Because look, if you are able to get your guys rest, if Jimmy is on the bench, then he's not potentially falling on his tailbone again for the 50th time this season. And we want him healthy heading into, which is now the second half of the season. So play a quintessentially Heat game, they'll be all right.
All right, Brady, I'm going to let you close here. Before I do, I want to mention a couple things. We got a bunch of stuff on the YouTube channel, so make sure you check it out. New episode of Heat versus the World is posted there. New episode of Feel the Heat is posted there. Latest 5 on the floor. We compared the 2022 Heat to the 2020 Finals Heat. That's on there. Brady's latest breakdown is on there. All of that content is there. Hit the subscribe button. Scroll through. You're going to find it. Of course, we mentioned use Prize Picks and the code 5 if you want to go there. Brady, I'll give you this, and you can finish it for us. This game, the Atlanta game, and the Laker game, which is the one that concerns you the most of the 3?
I would definitely say the Atlanta game. Like, that feels the one that'll pop out that they can have some trouble with because I feel like Trae Young can actually give them problems. Like, Caleb Martin's able to slow them down 2 out of 3. I think that's a decent probability rate. Like, I don't know if he could do a 3 out of 3. But just looking at tonight, I just want to say I know there's a lot of Duncan talk. Like, the only way he can go about this is just shooting the ball quick. Like, I don't feel like there's any other way that this can go about. Like, there's no other way that when he comes off a handoff, he has to fire it away, almost like Max Strus. Like, it's not like Max Strus doesn't think about it when he shoots. I feel like there's times when Duncan thinks about it. That's the big thing tonight. I know you mentioned not keying in on certain players. Like, this could be a team win. There is going to be a certain player to focus on because I feel like this is a game where he just has to just fully go nuclear with the confidence without Tyler here. And I do think Miami wins this. I think this is so many people are constantly talking about seeing Omer Yurtseven. I think you do see him tonight because I feel like he's in there for the final 6 minutes in the fourth quarter.
I'm looking for a Bam game tonight. I feel like he got his feet wet in the last one. There'll be a little bit more aggression tonight. Here's how crazy things are with Duncan right now. Our guy Alejandro, who's at the game, who's producing this, put up a video, pregame video on the 5 Reasons Instagram channel. Duncan missed 4 out of 5 shots, including hitting the backboard on one of them. The comments, Alejandro, man. I know you didn't do that on purpose. You're just shooting video.
It's okay. He's shooting 40% in the last month. Don't worry about the fact that he's terrible.
We're gonna start. I feel like
I did post another one of him making it. So
yeah, please buy one. He makes one, okay?
Because exiting the chat.
It's already.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Oh, Patience Face halftime.
in, you're out, you're right back in it. How did you learn it? Your thoughts on losing Tyler, and is there almost a list of players you have who haven't had it yet, so you sort of know where you stand in the scorecard?
I hate looking at that list. Obvious reasons. I mean, we've checked off a lot of people that are on that list. There are some that are not, and it's like, well, what are you hoping for at this point? That does create some anxiety for those who have not gotten it yet. And hopefully we don't. But we move forward. This is what this season is about. You know, we're not past it. You just look around the league, and you still read, you know, players and personnel and staff that are getting it. We'll just focus on tonight, who's available, and work on putting together, you know, a game that puts, you know, our best foot forward.
So you had the 54 points, maybe the other guy, particularly at the rim, you guys were really good.
Yeah.
Like about the way the guys got to it and success and efficiency.
I think we handled the pressure better as the game went on. Like I said after the game, that they're a unique team now with their size, speed, quickness, versatility. They speed you up. Our spacing was a little bit better, you know, as the game went on. And then we were able to play to our strengths and we want to be assertive. We want to be able to attack and get into the paint. And you know, we had some better plays after we got past that first quarter.
I'm kind of curious that usually by now, midway through a year, you have a really good feel for who you are and who you can be. And with everybody in and out all year, the COVID thing, it's hit every team.
Yeah.
Like, do you think you have like less of a feel for what you really are just because of all the in and out lineup changes?
Yeah, I'm not sure, like, you know, if that's a bad thing either. Like, we've been so immersed just in the present moment, you know, who's available, what habits are we trying to build. I think we have a pretty good idea, even with all the fluctuations of lineups and rotations, what our identity is on both sides of the floor. We've definitely been establishing some habits, and hopefully we'll continue to do that and improve in the second half of the season. And then that's something we can't control, you know, whether we'll have a defined, you know, specific rotation. But I think it's more important to have the identity and everybody understanding, like, what does it look like when we're playing well? And can you do that consistently?
So Gabe Vincent, just the luxury of having him, a guy with DNPs that you can put him in the starting lineup, makes big shots for you, also deeds of heady plays down the stretch, foul on the 1-1. One of those plays that he's able to make at this juncture of his career.
Yeah, he's a competitor, and I don't think you can credit him enough and his work with EG about how much he's had to change his role. Really being a scoring two guard, you know, in the G League and in college. You know, where we wanted to try to help him develop into a combo guard who would be a defensive-minded guy. And he had a lot of those qualities. He can drive on that side of the floor. He's tough and he can be physical. And in our system, learning where he can make an impact, you know, defensively. And if you're a combo guard with us, with the type of scores that we have, you know, he's also had to really embrace learning how to be a facilitator and help us get organized and get the ball where it needs to go. I thought he made great strides in that department last year. Well, actually, both those areas, defensively and as a facilitator. You know, and he played most of the season not fully healthy. You know, and that's the shame of it. I thought he played winning basketball last year, but everybody just looks at how many points you score and what's your field goal percentage. That did not tell the tale of how much he's improved. He had a terrific summer and really prepared for this training camp. I'm seeing that what we're seeing is the fruits of all that work behind the scenes. And it's really grown, and he's embraced all of that. You know, that's why we say sometimes that it's not for everybody. You know, because that was a hard task. You know, for him to do that, and he'll continue to improve. But he was able to quiet all the noise, and I'm sure there are a lot of people telling him don't do that. That's ruining your game. You got to be who you are. And he would have been out of the league, or at least not with us. But he has, Miami Heat DNA and those kind of qualities, and that really not the court. Head spirit.
Coach, when a player gets a triple double, it really highlights the completeness of their game. And Jimmy's triple double the other night with all the things he did, and, the find of Tucker late, pass he made, but to set the franchise record and significantly to tie the franchise record with LeBron significantly less amount of games. I'm just wondering what his completeness does for you on a nightly basis.
That's pretty amazing. So tie the franchise record for triple doubles.
Not 9 triple doubles with LeBron in like 100. I don't know, over 100 less fewer games.
Yeah, that's remarkable. It shows you, the completeness of his skill set. That he can do a lot of different things, and with us, we've had to play him a lot of times as our point forward. I think that's really helped his game grow as well. He can fully be a facilitating point guard for us at any stretch of the game. Now we need him to score, need him to be aggressive, need for him to get into the paint. Those are his strengths. He does that as well as anybody. But he plays he competes at the game the right way. Takes great pride in the defensive side of it. He understands how important that is when your better players are committed to that side of the floor. It's so much easier for everybody else to fall in line. And then, there's anything he can do, to help you on the other side of the floor. You need a bucket, you need an assist, you need a good screen. He's extremely intelligent, so he understands game plans. And it's great. Like you get into the games like that where it's super competitive and physical when you have a guy like Jimmy. No, I did not have enough.
Ties your business in a
daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's tonight's floor plan. We've got Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. And you hear his voice at the beginning of every episode. I don't know if people actually know that. Should I give that away? I'm not really sure.
It's too late now.
Yeah, I'm bad with secrets. But that's one of my problems. But you can find her Twitter handle, Alana
Tower. Not going to try again. That was a one and done deal.
That was excellent. Okay, and her appearance here is sponsored by Mark Brown. Go to markbrownpa.com. If you need an estate plan, Mark can help you out with that. Again, go to markbrownpa.com, based right here in North Lauderdale. Also got a title company right there in-house. Lana's episodes of Feel the Heat are also sponsored by Mark. So make sure, again, you check out markbrownpa.com for your, again, title needs, your real estate needs, as well as your estate planning needs. All right, let's get to it. People are kind of happy today, I feel like. And on Heat Twitter, that's a rare thing. Usually everybody's looking for something to be frustrated about. But I feel like the win against Toronto answered some questions for a lot of folks. Bam came back, kill the mix. The young players, with the exception of Yurt, still got to play. Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent. Now people are asking for nicknames for them defensively and what they're doing. I kind of like the whole lockdown thing. I kind of like double bolt, but we probably could come up with a better one than that. Jimmy Butler, after a really poor performance, I thought in the previous game, had a triple-double. Tyler Hero, again, we saw what he can do against length, which is something that he has struggled with at times. And so with the exception, again, of, the Duncan Robinson thing, but even Duncan, played under 20 minutes, had 8 points, made 40% of his threes, 2 out of 5. So there's not the kind of anger on Heat Twitter today. And we felt like this was a good time to have a happy topic, right? Because we don't do that many of those. And it struck me when I saw your tweet yesterday, Greg, when you were talking about maybe this is the deepest team in Heat history. And when we start to go back now, you're talking about since 1988, we probably can throw out some of those early years. But I mean, this is a team that's won 3 championships, been to 6 finals, and was in a finals just 2 years ago, actually in 2020. And I tweeted this out today. It's interesting. They're the only bubble frauds, but actually since 2020, the Nuggets of the 4 finalists have won more regular season games, and they've won one more. The Heat have won more than the Lakers or the Celtics since then, but only the Heat get called bubble frauds. But I thought it might be fun here to take a look at this team as compared to 2020, first on the court, but then also off the court. Is this team better? Is this team more fun? I'll start here with you, Greg. Is this team better than the 2020 team?
Yes, because they're deeper. I think that we forget, if you go back to those box scores of the NBA Finals, as fun as that was, and Jimmy going toe-to-toe with LeBron James will be in Heat allure forever. They were playing like 6.5, 7 guys, and just knowing that the team has a lot more options now, I just think it's a vibe. To me, it's a much deeper team. It's a much more well-balanced team, and it's one that I think is built to maximize Jimmy and Bam in a way that I think Spoelstra kind of learned that this was the build on the fly when he acquired Jay Crowder and Andre Iguodala. And then now, so he got to take those learnings and implement it into a roster building activity when he got PJ Tucker and Kyle Lowry and kind of switched the some of the faces around the team. So to me, it's absolutely 100% without a doubt a better team. Will it go as far? That's another question.
Alana, Goran obviously is the guy who's gone. And although still in his heart and still in the practice facility at times, although not in the building with yesterday. But, that team, again, they caught fire in the bubble, but they were playing really well prior to like the 3 weeks of and then the COVID shutdown. The 3 weeks before the COVID shutdown, they didn't play particularly well. Then they were 3-5. And then they caught fire. They caught some good matchups. And I hate the narrative that, that it was unfair that they outperformed in the bubble. When you're talking about the reason that they outperformed in the bubble was they have good coaching, they had disciplined players, and they were focused. I don't know why that's being held against them. But when you just look at that team versus this team, what sticks out to you?
To me, it's all about identity. I loved that team, and obviously I am a huge Goran fan. I also was gutted when we lost Jay. But to me, this team knows who they are a lot more. And it's not to say that team didn't have kind of glimpses of what the overall basketball experience would be like. And obviously they thrive in the bubble for a reason. But this team is so just like they click on all cylinders, both on and off the court. I think the kind of identity they've taken on with, playing in the kennel and that they're dogs, that to me is making them successful. And it's every last guy. It's not just Jimmy. It's not just Kyle. It's not Bam being a little bit more aggressive. It's each and every player, even guys who are hurt. Keith hasn't played in however many games. You can feel that off the bench. Same with Depot, who's there night in and night out. So that to me, them knowing who they are, I think is a huge plus.
And we talk about Jay. So let's break it down here a little bit and let's go player by player to a certain degree. Are we all in agreement that PJ Tucker has been an upgrade over Jay Crowder, or do we need to see more?
Oh my gosh. Can we move on to the next one?
Yeah, you started with the easy one. That's
loved Crowder. And he was like that. That was, I think, very informative to Spo to go get what has been an absolutely even more perfect fit next to Bam, and that's PJ Tucker. Next.
Okay. I mean, do you want to add anything, Alana?
No, I mean, I've said it from the start. I love PJ. I loved that signing. People thought I was crazy for saying that he was going to make the kind of impact that he's making. I love Jay. I wish him the best in Phoenix, but yeah, total upgrade.
All right. Point guard situation here. Kyle Lowry, Goran Dragic. I know this is going to be painful, Alana, but.
I mean, listen, I love Goran, but Kyle brings something to this specific roster. I think more than anything else that was really needed. People, when he came, were talking about the fact that he was going to help Jimmy out, obviously on the floor, but I think it's more so that he's helping Jimmy out with the other guys, making Bam more aggressive, teaching the younger guys how to be a little bit stronger on their feet. So yeah, I mean, and again, I've talked about this with Michael on Field of Heat. I love Kyle's personality. I know people think that he should shut up or he needs to stop being so despondent all the time. I love it. So I love Goran, but yeah, for this specific roster, Kyle is an upgrade.
You know, it's fun. It's funny. Like if you look back at the playoff run, Jimmy led the team with 6 assists per game, and just seeing Kyle transform the offense the way that he has, like I think there's just a difference between Goran throughout that entire season, and there was a difference in bubble Goran, and he didn't bring the assists, but that 19 points per game that he brought throughout the playoffs, although the team needed that at the time, there's this mix of Tyler Hero getting more of the scoring responsibility right at the right moment when Kyle Lowry can kind of focus on distributing and lifting some of these younger players up. I just think it's like a really nice blend, and one that I think is more fit around Jimmy and Bam. So like to me, that as much as I love Goran and I think his number should be in the rafters, although that's an interesting scenario now that Kyle also wears that number 7, we have to say it's an upgrade, right?
I mean, yes, I think what the thing about Goran in the bubble was he gave them exactly what it was that they needed, right? Like there was a void on this team for a guy who can just go get buckets, like because Hero was doing it, but he was a rookie and he was inconsistent at it. And Jimmy, it's not really what he primarily wants to do. And then Bam, he was more aggressive than he was last year in the playoffs. It wasn't his primary function either. So it kind of, I think what Goran did more than anything else in the bubble, other than be Jimmy's best friend, which I think helped them get through the bubble, that relationship and Goran's leadership, I think was critical there, it was just like he did the thing that the others really are not inclined to do first. And I don't know that they get to the finals without him. We'll never know if they would have won a championship if he'd been healthy, unfortunately. But I think overall, I think we can all agree that what we saw last year, and again, it's hard to, I don't really want to mix in the 2021 campaign as much, but is that Goran was a liability on one end and Kyle Lowry is not. And that ability now to not have to play more than one poor defender at a time makes this team better, I would think. All right, so let's go to some of the existing players, okay? Is Bam, in your view, better than he was in 2020? Alana?
Yes, but I also don't feel like I've seen enough from Bam yet to kind of make that I don't say he overall is going to be better than he was back then because I don't think I have enough of a sample size. I do think, though, that, like I had said, Kyle being here really has helped. I think he's more aggressive. I think he looks at himself as more of the guy that he needs to be. I think before, he was stepping up, but he wasn't doing it in a bold enough way, I think, for what the team needed. And I think right now he sees himself in a different way. I also think the gold medal helped that a little bit. So I think just in the succession of things, yeah, he is more of the guy we want him to be. But I think something you said earlier kind of hits it on the head for all of these comparisons. The team that was built before is so different than the team that was built now that you can say everyone is an upgrade because this team is built perfectly around one another. I don't really see a single guy that really stands out. Duncan, I have a little bit of an issue with, which we may get into or might not, in terms of he might be the outlier with his personality, not necessarily fitting into like the grittiness of the rest of the team. But I think the reason all these guys are upgrades is less so, the X's and O's necessarily, and more just fitting into a group.
What do you think, Bam?
So Bam in the bubble was essentially like 18 and 10, 4.5 assists, 56% field goal shooting on 11 attempts, 12 attempts. That's what he's averaging this year, maybe on a little worse efficiency, but he's getting a little more usage. So for me, like the Bam in the bubble was good enough to get to the NBA finals and was good enough to take over an Eastern Conference finals. So to me, seeing that from him as his averages in a season where I think there is a faction of the fan base that maybe even expected more from him, which I think maybe our expectations are getting through the roof. And sorry if I'm the one who's led that by calling him no ceiling. He really does have no ceiling, but I think we should give the guy at least some time to explore how high the ceiling is. And so if he's averaging what he did in the bubble when they made that run, I think he's better today than he was then. But we obviously need to see it throughout the playoffs because I'm referencing a finals run statistics and we're talking regular season.
Jimmy, better, same, worse? Greg?
We are witnessing Jimmy Butler at the height of his powers, 100%. Now, what's crazy about that is that he was so damn good in that run. And I don't know that he'll ever go toe to toe in a sheer statistical, like if you're just looking at points, rebounds, and assists to LeBron James, because this team is built differently. But if you're telling me that this isn't the same guy who can do that, he at the height of his powers, I say that is at least a wash. If not, you have Jimmy at his absolute best right now. Right? Am I crazy?
Well, I think when you look at the finals, people are going to say that was a moment in time that is going to be almost impossible to replicate because it was the circumstances, right? Yeah. We have seen him miss a lot of time the last 2 years with injuries. I think that would be the concern. I think when Jimmy plays and Jimmy is focused and the way that Jimmy is able to hunt mismatches now and able to slow the game down, and I don't think the changes in the officiating have really affected him like they've affected other guys. I think you can make the argument that you're making, Greg. I don't necessarily think that means we're ever going to see again what we saw against LeBron. And he's going to be measured against that. In part, he's going to be measured against that more than he's going to be measured against what happened in the playoffs last year when he was outscored by Ben Forbes, right? Like people are going to, if they make a deep playoff run, it's going to be, okay, can he still be playoff Jimmy? I believe that last year was a product of basically just fatigue, mental fatigue, emotional fatigue, physical fatigue. So I do think that we're going to see a really good Jimmy in the postseason, especially against certain opponents. But also, a lot of teams have kind of figured some things out with him a little bit. Playing him with length and size has given him some problems. And we may see that Milwaukee do that again. They guarded him differently this year. So I'll just say, are you expecting a Jimmy in playoffs that can be as good as the Jimmy we saw in the playoffs 2 years ago?
For me, it all comes down to health. And I have been criticized for saying this lately, even though I've thought it for a while. I just haven't really spoken on it. His injuries concern me. And I think Michael actually brought this up. It's not so much that he's unable to stay healthy like day to day, but it's the way he plays. He gives it his all, which is what we love from him, but it doesn't really help when I think the last game he fell on that tailbone again. And I gasped because I was like, are you serious? Is this going to be number 3? So if he can stay healthy, yes, I think that we can see a similar Jimmy. And I think the last few games have proved that he is getting his aggression back. I'm just concerned that he's going to keep giving it his all, ramping up even to the playoffs. And by that point, he's not going to be able to stay as physically fit or as healthy as he needs to. And I don't like saying this because people are going to come after me, but it's just for him, injuries are becoming a problem.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, I think
it sounds like we're talking about Dwayne, right?
Well, right. I mean, I think that's the case. Now, the difference is that Dwayne relied on athleticism a lot more than Jimmy did, at least until the end. And so I think that, with Dwayne, it was the availability was a real problem because he couldn't do certain things that he used to do. And, with all the stuff about Dwayne and turning 40 and the greatness and all that, people forget to a certain degree what those couple of seasons were like with the Big Three, where you didn't know if he was going to play from night to night, even in a playoff game. And that frustrated LeBron. That was one of the reasons LeBron left. Not the primary reason, but it was one of the reasons LeBron left. I don't think this with Jimmy. I feel like he has taken some extra days this year, again, because he came back a little bit too soon with the tailbone thing the first time. I don't think it's going to significantly diminish his level of play, the ankle, as we go forward, at least this year. But it's something I agree with Alana in the sense that it's something to monitor. All right, we're going to get to a couple more players, then I want to get to some fun stuff with Alana and Greg here. Before we do, I want to tell you about another sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, or a couple of them. It's the same code for both of these. It's 5RSN. 5RSN. If you're an endurance athlete, the new sponsor, it's called Salis. You can find it at getsalis.com. That's GETSALIS.com. This is where you go if you want to replenish your electrolytes. naturally, okay? Not with the artificial flavors, the artificial colors, not by chugging a big thing of Gatorade. This is how you do this thing naturally. You go to getsolis.com, use the code 5RSN, that's the number 5RSN, and you'll get 10% off. So give it a shot. And for your premium CBD, you need help sleeping, like me, or you need to recover from stuff, like me, go to therapistpreferred.com, use the code 5RSN. You can get the gummies, the tincture, the sports cream, and you'll get 25% off. That's the best offer that they give to anybody. But here is 5 reasons. Go to 5RSN, use the code over at Therapist Preferred and at Get Solis, both of them, of course, on the old World Wide Web. All right, let's get to a couple of other people.